Welcome back to BevNet Live Livestream Lounge. I wanted to thank our sponsors, AFS, Sovereign Flavors, and Ingredion. Before I even introduce myself and our guests, I'm Mike Schneider at BevNet Mike, CMO of BevNet, and I'm here with my friend Arnold Ventura, Califia Farms, VP of Business Development. Arnold, so great to see you.
Likewise, likewise.
How are you liking the show so far?
It's been great. It's been great. Some great new companies coming out in the morning. Great list of speakers. Always good content.
Thank you very much. It's always great to have you here. So since the last time we met up, a lot of things have happened.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about Whole Foods a lot on stage at the last BevNet Live, and then what happened? Got sold. And you guys have also started to do e-commerce, and you've had a Black Friday and a Cyber Monday. Let's start there. Let's talk about Califia.
Yeah, so really interesting times for Califia, certainly developing our e-commerce capability. I think as we today's talk, we just kind of set the macro context, and to your point, we're coming off a really exciting holiday, right? So we have new data. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's kind of level setting and ground everybody and kind of where we're at. So
before we do that, let's do something that we should always do, which is talk about market size. What is what category are you playing in, and what is the market opportunity for Califia?
We play in a number of categories, right? So
right.
It's not just one, but certainly we compete in what's oftentimes referred to as dairy alternatives or nut milk category, coffee, ready-to-drink coffee specifically, creamers, and everything certainly being non-dairy.
Dairy category, $16 billion category.
Yeah, so... And citrus or juice. Mm-hmm. So those are the main categories, and then those all certainly exist online in different kind of maturities.
So you're doing e-commerce now. What kind of data are you collecting, and what have you learned from that data? Now you're direct to consumer.
Yeah, so it's fascinating. So it's just been about a year since we launched our direct to consumer capability, and we're now just starting to see some of the early kind of data pieces that we think we can really build on for the future. As well as how we'll kind of lay out our plan for 2018 going forward. So I think in terms of what do we see, it's really interesting. I think consumers, for the most part, are able to find a lot of the core products in the portfolio in their brick and mortar store, but e-com represents an opportunity to really look at the long tail items in the portfolio, and those tend to actually do quite well on e-com.
A year before you're saying that we've finally got critical mass of data to be able to get some insights. I mean, I'm sure the first thing that you did was to set up the guts, the ability to be able to do it, and then you're looking at data on the back end.
Yeah.
So what kind of questions do you ask yourself when you now that you can?
Yeah.
What are the new questions?
It's a good question. So I think it's important to kind of set up what those KPIs or those benchmarks are going to be. So it's there's certainly the inherent ones that come with any e-com D2C business. So whether that be average order value, conversion ratio, time on the site, bounce rate, those are all there, and those are all...
Sound like a tech startup.
Those are exactly right. So that's the world that we're playing in, though, too. We're coming across consumers in that kind of paradigm that they're used to kind of having a certain experience. In fact, I recently read something that online issues related to Cyber Monday and Black Friday accounted for 68% of consumers leaving the site.
So what this says is now that Califia can't just be a nut milk or juice or a cold brew company. You actually have to think in terms of being a tech company. And so do you have a new user experience competency, or are you building that competency out? I mean, obviously you've realized that now that's a thing that you need to have when you do direct to consumer.
Yeah, no, you're exactly hitting where we're at right now. So, in fact, recently we took some time to reflect on what is our user experience, where do we see that going, and then specifically as we go to kind of grow our targets in the way of household penetration and overall awareness, when that new user does come to the site, what is that experience? And so those are all things that we're continuing to grow on. We think we did a decent step in the first iteration with the launch of the D2C component. And we think we have quite a bit of progress in front of us that still remains. So
it's one thing to be able to say that we're going to do direct to consumer, but it's another to get that whole thing set up. My background is actually, my first life was as a data warehouse architect and been a business intelligence guy. And I remember setting all these up, and it's really interesting to see, it get into the food space and see direct-to-consumer start to happen, especially after I was in tech for such a long time.
Yeah.
So how did you guys build out that competency inside? Do you have like a center of excellence around it? Or?
No, well, coming from Pepsi in my life prior, we were just barely building the center of excellence. So that's where that size company was at that time. We were just talking a few years ago. So we're certainly, I think all of our departments are centers of excellence at Califia. But the reality is that you're completely right. Like, e-commerce fundamentally starts with the supply chain. And so often we kind of get enamored with the end piece of it, the digital, the romance part that hits the consumer.
Right.
But the absolute bedrock of e-com starts with, okay, so how about the product itself? What's the integrity?
Which, by the way, phenomenal. That's not the problem.
Yeah, we have some amazing leaders,
right,
and that are producing phenomenal product, and we're just trying to meet the consumer wherever they want to find us. So whether that's brick and mortar, or that's brick and click, or D2C, or pure plays. But to your point, we had to build that from the beginning, the entire supply chain, getting to consumers' doorsteps in 2 days or less, and all the intricacies that come with wiring in those warehousing capabilities as well as last mile.
And there's a new kind of segmentation that you have to think about when you go online. The online segmentation is much different because you're looking at consumer behavior, or you're looking at behavior on the web versus just demographics and things of that nature. So it just builds out a whole. It's a whole different way of thinking, and it's really interesting to see you guys going into that.
Yeah, so we're continuing to build that, and we want to make sure, not to burn out our database at the end of the day. So we have to really think about going forward in 2018, how we go about reaching to consumers. What does that communication look like? How often? The type of communication.
What have you learned about traditional retail from being direct to consumer? Anything? Any interesting insights that you can share?
I suppose probably our head of sales could probably better answer that question than myself. We do stay really close. We do stay really tight. I think probably the biggest thing that we continue to be aligned on internally is avoiding cross-channel packaging conflict. So it's important that there is a clear value proposition online, and that serves a certain need, and we try to think about how that might differ in the brick and mortar world. So there's some kind of low-hanging examples of that, but one of the advantages that we have in the way that we sell the products online is that we can sell in cases, we can sell in mixed packs, we can sell in variety packs, we can pick those just in time. So oftentimes we're encountering the consumer when they're in a pantry stuffing mode, so to speak, versus being in store and maybe picking up one or two, or perhaps an impulse purchase in one of our newer products or line extensions.
I think it'd be, let you get away without talking about what your favorite Califia products are. How do you start your day?
How does my day start?
How does your day start? Yeah.
So it starts early. It starts very early. We look at some data from how we performed the previous day. Anybody that's been to the office has seen in my office we have Google Analytics streaming live all the time, so we can understand what's happening there on that site. And then we're just trying to figure out what we need to think about, what's happening. We're not really thinking about the here and now. We're actually thinking many steps ahead. So we're thinking about the next quarter. What are plans that we need to put in place now so that we can make that quarter?
I was just trying to ask you what your favorite Califia was. This guy just wants to talk business all the time. Arnold, man, it's so great having you on the live stream.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Okay.